po.
Good day, everyone. Thank you in advance for joining us with this webinar. So while we are still waiting for other participants, allow me to give a brief background of today's activity. This event is in collaboration with Bulacan State University, Institute of Environmental Governance, College of Business Administration, and Wetlands International Philippines. The partnership is ongoing for 2 years already. BulSU marks its sixth engagement, undertaking several modes of activities to commemorate celebrations of Wetlands Day, Ocean Month, and International Day of Ocean. The reason why we should celebrate World Ocean Day is to remind us of the major role the ocean has in our lives. They are the lungs of our planet, providing most of the oxygen we inhale. It is an opportunity to honor, help, protect, and conserve the ocean. Today, we will be reminded of why we need to protect our coastal wetlands and the BulSU initiatives for sustainable ocean. We are thankful to the University President, Dr. Cecilia Navasero Gascon, Vice President, Engineer Erwin Magsakay, and the Dean, the College of Business Administration, Dr. Emerlita Nagyat, for allowing us to proceed with this activity. Stay with us, and we will begin in a few minutes.
Hindi ko makakita yung sarili.
Meron.
Hi, Sam. Hi, Sam.
Sa akin 500. May ad? Okay. Start? 6.5 lang, 7,000 lang naman.
For those of you who just joined us, welcome. I am your host for today, Dr. Mary Ann Carranza, the Campus Director for Extension Services Maine, and I welcome you all to this webinar entitled World Ocean Day 2020 with the theme Innovation for a Sustainable Ocean. I think the time is right for us to start our webinar. Again, we would like to welcome you to this webinar entitled World Ocean Day 2020 with the theme Innovation for a Sustainable Ocean. We assure you that this webinar will be worth your while. As a little reminder, please stay until the end of the webinar because I will give you the details on how you can claim your e-certificates after the question and answer portion. To start and to give us a motivational insight, here is our beloved University President, Dr. Cecilia Navasero Gascon, for the opening remarks.
To Dr. Carranza, to our esteemed speaker, the country representative program manager of Wetlands International, Dr. Annadel Cabanban, Development and Extension, Engineer Erwin Magsakay, of course to our Director for Extension Services, Dr. Victor Ramos, and the Assistant Director for Extension Services, Dr. Elizabeth Chua, who organized this World Ocean Day celebration through this webinar. And of course, to all the participants, good afternoon. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Today, we are one with the world in celebrating the world's oceans. That hopes to encourage everyone to protect the ocean and contribute to the sustainability of our marine resources. The last few months have been a challenging and difficult time due to the pandemic crisis throughout the globe. The COVID-19 virus has been the main concern of the world. However, it is uplifting to know that despite the pandemic's disruptive and detrimental effect worldwide, the restriction in people's movement and activities has resulted in a positive impact to our environment. Data from the European Space Agency shows that there is a strong reduction in nitrogen dioxide concentrations over several major cities across Europe from March 2019 to March 2020. Here in our country, reports say that there is a drastic improvement in the air quality in different cities in the country. Data from airtoday.ph and the Department of Environment and Natural Resources indicate a 51% to 71% decrease on in PM 2.5 levels in 3 areas of Metro Manila. On the other hand, expert says that this is not a silver lining for the environment. Upon lifting the community quarantine, the pollution level will return and probably may come back with greater retribution if we will not take responsibility on the matter. The world ocean covers 71% of the earth, and therefore we must work hand in hand and be proactive in promoting activities to promote the integrity and sustainability of the ocean ecosystem. According to the United Nations Economic and Social Commissions for Asia and the Pacific, this pandemic, okay? But of course, I do not want to give credit to this pandemic. This pandemic might be a window of opportunity to protect the marine environment. This is a much needed time to recover from pollution, overfishing, and impact of climate change. A recent research conducted in Cabanban Lake, the longest freshwater lake in India, shows that during the lockdown, there is a 15.9% average decrease in the suspended particle matter concentration. As we celebrate the World Ocean Day, I urge everyone to exhibit the same self-control that all of us exhibited during the time of pandemic. We did not pollute our oceans. We did not do any unnecessary undertaking. And we concentrate only on things that are essential to our subsistence. If we will be able to mimic this behavior, even after the pandemic, when things get normal, and still our choice is to live a simple life, we get only what we need and be contented with less, we will be able to restore not only our oceans, but the whole of our ecosystems. Let this be the beginning of a massive advocacy in the academe, an advocacy to create a healthy ocean. And I urge everyone to take the first step today. Start with these 5 things we can do to save our ocean. Number 1, reduce our carbon footprint. The ocean keeps the carbon cycle in balance. It absorbs the amount of carbon dioxide in the air. This makes the ocean more acidic, which is very harmful to corals, shellfish, fish, and other marine life. So we have to reduce our carbon footprints on this. Number 2, reduce the use of plastics. This practice is already institutionalized. We are happy that this practice has been institutionalized in Bulacan State University. We carry our own reusable bottles or our own tumblers. We also have our own lunch box. And we don't use, or we minimize the use of disposable containers. Number 3, take care of the beach. Appreciate the ocean and do not damage rocks and corals. And always clean after you use, okay, our beaches. Number 5, support activities that protect the ocean. So find time to volunteer on different hands-on advocacy to save the environment. Although my advocacy here is more on not polluting the ocean, because for myself, I do not want to, pick up the trash of other people, because I don't litter, okay? But of course, there are some people who are really very active in volunteer work in cleaning the oceans. Okay, and number 5, continue to learn about the oceans. The more we are aware of the issues connected to the oceans and its inhabitants, the more we can actively help. My dear participants to this webinar and the BulSU community, I encourage you to be at the forefront in creating a healthy and sustainable ocean. If we will contribute, no matter how small our contribution may be, this will indeed make a big difference. Thank you very much. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.
Thank you so much, President Gascon. I totally agree with what you have said, that we should exhibit the same self-control that all of us exhibited during this time of pandemic. We didn't pollute our ocean. We didn't do unnecessary undertaking. The President encourages the BulSU community to be at the forefront in creating a healthy and sustainable ocean. And now, allow me to introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is the country representative of Wetlands International in the Philippines and the program manager, Partners for the Resilience Project 2016-2020 Philippines for the same environmental foundation. She leads activities in increasing investment for integrated risk management toward the resiliency of communities. She is trained as a marine biologist in the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and James Cook University in Australia. It is such a pleasure to present to you Dr. Annadel Cabanban.
Thank you very much, Ms. Carranza. It's a little bit slow. I'm trying to connect. Yeah, I'd like to share now my screen. The host disabled my screen. Can you see the screen now?
Not yet, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Is my screen okay now?
Not yet, ma'am. I enabled it
Okay.
already. Please try.
Is my screen visible now? The PowerPoint?
No, ma'am.
No?
Or do you want me to open your PowerPoint na lang, ma'am?
Maybe you can share from your end.
Opo. Paano na lang, ma'am, ng video niyo po?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to open your
What
PowerPoint na lang, ma'am?
earlier? Yeah. Maybe you can share from your end.
Paano na lang, ma'am, ng video niyo po? Or do you want me to?
This will stop other screen share. You want to continue? Maybe you can share from your end.
Paano na lang, ma'am, ng video niyo po?
You can see it already, Chin.
And you can see it now. All right. Thank you. Maybe you can share from your end. All right.
Paano na lang, ma'am,
Lisa, sorry about this. Since everyone can see the screen now, today is, you can see it now. All right. Ocean Day. Maybe you can share from your end. All right.
Paano na lang, ma'am?
Lisa, sorry about this. Since everyone can see the screen now, today is, you can see it now. All right. Ocean Day. Maybe you can share from your end. All right.
Paano na lang, ma'am?
Yes, okay. Sorry about this. Since everyone can see the screen now.
Yes, ma'am, it's okay.
Today is, you can see it now. All right. Ocean Day. Maybe you can share from your end. All right.
Paano na lang, ma'am?
Yes, okay.
Sorry about this. Since everyone can see the screen now.
Yes, ma'am, it's okay.
Today is, All right, Ocean Day. If you can share from your own. All right. Yeah, okay. Sorry about this. Everyone can see the screen now. Today is all right, Ocean Day. If you can share from your own. All right. I have shared from my end already. Sorry about this. Everyone can see the screen now. Today is
Hello, ma'am.
yeah, hi Shin. Yeah.
Nagloko yung ano. Can you show your video po, ma'am? Ayan, I asked you to open your video, ma'am. Okay. Sharing again your PowerPoint presentation. Sorry about this. Okay.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, it's for everyone. Maybe you can have it on
Slideshow.
screen. Yeah.
It's on slideshow na, ma'am.
Slideshow already. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry everyone for this glitch. We tried this earlier and it was working perfectly. Anyhow, we're here today to celebrate World Ocean Day 2020. The theme is Together We Can Protect Our Home. Our home refers to our planet Earth. Planet Earth being more of ocean, more of marine waters than land. And so there's actually a growing movement of people, movement of governments, movement of organizations around the world beginning this year to protect 30% of our blue planet by 2030. That is why the movement is called 30 by 30. Next slide, please. So what can we do? What can we Filipinos do? We can contribute to this effort by protecting Manila Bay, which is just at our doorstep. And by doing so, we can start by protecting our coastal wetlands. Next slide, please. Why do we have to protect our coastal wetlands? Why is it important to do so? And what's the benefit to the sea, to Manila Bay in particular? Coastal wetlands are, example, mangrove forests, seagrass beds along the coast. There are also mud floods. These two coastal wetlands, mangrove forests and seagrass beds, clean coastal waters. This is a very important ecosystem function of these two wetlands. So if we protect our coastal wetlands in Bulacan, Pampanga, Bataan, we will clean or contribute to the cleaning of Manila Bay. Next slide, please. How do mangroves clean the waters of Manila Bay? Mangrove roots have the function of filtering sediments that flow from river or from land, and so less sediments would enrich the coastal waters. The mechanism for doing so is the roots break down the velocity or the speed of the water coming down from the rivers, and it's because it slows down the waters, the sediment falls down into the substrate or to the ground, and that helps build the delta in the mouth of rivers. and in coastal mangrove forest. Next slide, please. In similar fashion, the seagrass beds with their blades of grass, just like the grass on land, this grass can grow as high as a meter or so, depending on the species. For instance, the one on the left side, the Thalassia, can grow high. And they also slow down the water, filter the water, capture the sediment, and the water that flows out to sea would be cleaner. The other function of seagrass beds, seagrass in particular, is to take the bacteria. It cleanses, it makes the waters in the coastal waters less having bacteria. This is a recent finding in marine science. So it's very important to keep these two important coastal ecosystems. Next slide, please. So how do we connect to the global efforts? You are well aware that there are sustainable development goals that the Philippine government has committed itself to as part of the global community. In particular, there's global Sustainable Development Goal number 14, which is in short called Life Underwater. It refers to the protection or conservation of oceans, seas, and marine resources. There are global targets, and in particular, I highlight two global targets here. 14.1, by 2025, there should be less pollution from land that enter into marine waters. In our case, less marine debris, less plastic, less organic compounds reaching Manila Bay. By 2020, sustainable managed and marine protected areas or coastal protected areas should be established. And if possible, there should be restoration of these coastal ecosystems. So how are we faring as a country in meeting Sustainable Development Goal number 14? Next slide, please. This is from the Philippine Statistics Authority. They are the ones compiling the data on specific indicators on specific Philippine targets. For Sustainable Development Goal number 14, the Philippine targets are, it's basically one. It's to conserve by 2020, which is this year, 10% of coastal and marine areas. This is broken down into two. You can see 14.5.1.1. It refers to the coverage of protected areas in relation to marine areas in marine waters. And the status as of 2019 is that 3.808 million hectares are protected. If we look at the other sub-target, 14.5.1.2, it refers to the marine waters, marine areas that are protected under the NIPAS, the National Integrated Protected Area System. And you can see the status there, it's 1.4% in 2019. In short, we are very short of the 10% target for conserving 10% of our coastal and marine areas. Next slide, please. In Manila Bay, some years ago, the environmental groups, the Conservation International, World Wildlife Fund, and IUC and other agencies have identified marine key biodiversity areas in the Philippines. And there's actually one here in Manila Bay. However, until now, this is not under any legal protection. If you see in the northern part of Manila Bay, in this map, the areas there are basically coastal wetlands. Next slide, please. It's shown better here in the second map. The gray area is basically the delta of Pampanga, and this delta is covered once before by mangrove forest, and the pinkish area is the coastal intertidal area. There, I just would like to highlight a few features of Manila Bay in this map. The Manila Bay opens into West Philippine Sea. This is the sliver of body of water within the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. And West Philippine Sea in turn connects to the South China Sea, which is a large marine ecosystem. The area of Manila Bay is about 2,000 square kilometers, and the coastline is about 200 kilometers long. And there are benefits, socioeconomic benefits in Manila Bay that we enjoy. Next slide, please. And I will enumerate them, or enumerate a few. One is it's a recreational area. There are parts of Manila Bay where there are resorts. For instance, this one here on the slide shows a resort, which is not frequented by a lot of people, but you can see that it has a nice beach, it has nice waters, it has trees, and it's a place where one can enjoy and have a relaxing weekend, for instance. So this recreational area can also employ people and provide livelihoods. Next slide, please. The other socioeconomic importance of Manila Bay, which is very common and which benefit a lot of people, thousands of small-scale fishermen fish in Manila Bay. The common gear that's used is fish corral, which is shown here on the right side of the slide. Basically, there is a net at the end of the fish corral. At high tide, the water go in, and then at low tide, the waters rush back to sea, and the fish are trapped at the end of the fish corral. On the left side is a fish. This is a mallet in English. In Filipino, it's called balanak. This is a baby one. As you can see, it's just about the size of your hand. I actually took this photo in Manila Bay way back in 2017 as we were cruising in the bay. So there's still life in Manila Bay despite the fact that, next slide please, that it is polluted. The other importance of Manila Bay is its Ramsar site. This is a site that is important for birds, and particularly for birds that are water birds and those that fly within the East Asia, Australasia flyway. This is the flyway. It's basically sort of like a highway in the sky where the birds from Siberia fly down to Australia and stopping by either South Korea wetlands or the Philippine wetlands, and then they feed in these wetlands, get energized, and then they continue their flight to Australia. And they do the same coming back different seasons. So they winter here, and then they go back to Siberia to breed. I mentioned that Ramsar, this is the Convention on Convention of Wetlands. They list as areas that are important internationally, and within Manila Bay, there is one, a small one that's called the Las Piñas Parañaque Critical Habitat and Ecotourism Area. It's site number 2124. It's important because it holds also a key species or rare species, endemic species, just like the Philippine duck. You can search this in the internet and have more photos of this, or you can visit the site itself. The other site that is very important for migratory birds is the Bulacan coastal wetlands. And they, because of their the importance of these wetlands, they can be considered as a Ramsar site. There are more than 20,000 water birds that were monitored or observed in these wetlands in lately, January this year, when there were migration coming from Siberia. And there are 18 species that are represented from the flyway population, from the migratory species. And sometimes some species, a quarter of their population are found or are using the coastal wetlands in Bulacan. For instance, this little bird here, the Pacific plover, it's 85% of its population is found here in the Bulacan coastal wetlands. And in terms of species that are threatened, there are globally, there are 4 species and 7 species that are found here in the coastal wetlands. So it's very important. Next slide, please. So the status of Manila Bay, as I mentioned, is polluted. And you can see or read more about this in the situational analysis report of the Manila Bay, which is in the National Economic Development Authority website. There is a website there particularly for Manila Bay, which is for the Manila Bay Sustainable Development Master Planning. And in terms of fisheries, it was found by the National Fisheries Research Development Institute of the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources that is nearly overfished. However, Philippine government is not taking things lightly. It has ordered, the Supreme Court in particular ordered agencies, the national government agencies, and there's many of them, they call the mandamos agencies, to work hard to make the Manila Bay clean, to improve the status of Manila Bay to SB, Class SB, which means that it is suitable for swimming, for recreation, and for the growth of fish. These are 2 important things that are important to the lives of people living in Manila Bay. And also, early this year, last year, the president passed this administrative order number 16, particularly for the rehabilitation and restoration of coastal and marine ecosystem of Manila Bay. And in fact, the title includes the speedy rehabilitation and restoration of coastal and marine ecosystem of Manila Bay. So we need to work together to ensure that the Manila Bay is in good condition so we can enjoy the benefits of the ecosystem. Next slide, please. So in rehabilitating Manila Bay, we can do so by protecting the key marine biodiversity area together with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources and other like-minded people near us. We need also to protect the coastal wetlands, such as intertidal mudfloods. These are mudfloods that are affected by high tide and low tide. They are covered during high tide and they're exposed during low tide. These are very important habitats for shells, small fish that are prey or food of birds, migratory birds, as well as resident water birds. These are also habitats of food species that we enjoy, clams and other univalves or single-valves. So mangrove forests are also important because they are nursery habitats of a lot of species, a lot of fresh a lot of fish that are demersal or pelagic, and also shrimps and mudflats and mud crabs. So these are important food items for us. And rehabilitation of mangrove forests is important for food as well as for cleaning the coastal waters in Manila Bay. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. If we protect and rehabilitate the coastal wetlands around Manila Bay, especially those in the north coast of the bay, this will result to less sediment that will reach coastal waters, so the water will be clean and be more suitable for the growth of fish, will be more suitable for the for recreation, for swimming. There will be more nursery sites for fish and shellfish that will result to more food for birds, as well as it will restore the stocks of fish and invertebrates in Manila Bay. And if it's restored, if the stocks have improved, then that will improve the livelihood of people who are involved in recreation or in fishing. Next slide. So this is a challenge to all of us in this day to do our part in protecting Manila Bay through the protection of coastal wetlands. We can keep the mangrove forests, whatever stands there that are there to regenerate, or we assist the regeneration of these wetlands, these mangroves, and the sites that are already abandoned, the fish ponds that are already abandoned, maybe we can restore them to its former state or close to its former state so that it functions in cleaning the waters and cleaning the waters of Manila Bay, and also as a nursery site for fish and invertebrates. In doing so, we improve the lives of people along Manila Bay, and also we contribute to the global efforts of protecting our home. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cabanban, for your insightful presentation. Indeed, together, we can protect our home. Before we proceed to our next speaker, we would like to remind everyone to answer the evaluation form at the end of the webinar. Only those who answered and submitted the evaluation form will receive a certificate of participation. For our next speaker, she is a very passionate lady in the environment whose background started when she served the Department of Environment and Natural Resources and at the Environmental Management Bureau, DENR, EMB, in the early 80s until 2008. Her accumulated experiences from this office honed her skills in her campaign for ecological solid waste management and in saving our forests, both in terrestrial and wetland. Her position as Senior Planning Officer gave her the opportunity to evaluate and monitor programs and projects in accordance with the given standards and regulations. She is a very principled woman, that her focus towards work is based on her core values closely attached to the law of nature. Today's event is BulSU's partnership with the Wetlands International Philippines and her sharing of insights of bringing resource rehabilitation a significant contribution in manifesting BulSU's way of caring for the ocean and the community at large. Without so much ado, let me welcome the Assistant Director for the Extension Services Office, Dr. Elizabeth C. Alegre Chua.
Thank you, Dr. Carranza. Para po sa lahat, isang makakalikasang hapon sa ating lahat. Today's observance is a time to demonstrate support for protecting our planet Earth. Definitely, the works of this webinar session is to heighten awareness for the citizens concerned on ocean protection with people and planet working together. With that, let me share the initiatives of Bulacan State University focusing on resource restoration of the coastal forest, a tributary leading to a larger ocean. Okay. BulSU first related project were able to empower 7 socially and environmentally oriented groups to engage in mangrove planting. So let's start my session. The first slide, please. Let me have the first slide. Okay. So the first slide is about the background. So the first is a brief, a short information that sparks BulSU's engagement on resource restoration. Since 2012, there are 3 coastal communities up to present that we are dealing with in terms of mangrove planting. So it was the project itself under the Philippine National Aqua Silviculture Program was funded from the DA Bureau of Fisheries Aquatic Resources, which covers the year from 2012 to 2015. It was also institutionalized in the university through the leadership of Dr. Cecilia N. Gascon, an environmentalist herself, through the Community Extension Service. This is also the primary flagship of the Institute for Environmental Governance from 2016 up to present. We really empower group with leadership training and transfer of know-how on the technical side. Okay, can we have the next slide, please? The next slide is about the coastal community of Bulacan, where mangrove restoration is being conducted. And we now have it. Okay. So the second slide, the map itself, shows the presence of project on resource rehabilitation and mangrove forests in the coastal areas of Hagonoy, Paumbong, and the city of Bulacan. So it has the concern on the provisioning purpose for food security, as very much elaborated by the first speaker. It also helps, the mangrove also helps in carbon sequestration, supported with its functional role as habitat formation. Lastly, it builds culture because of its aesthetic beauty, recreational and educational, among others, to form a heritage culture. So we have now the next slide. The next 3 slides, please. Okay, the next 3 slides shows the Community of Ocean Action for Mangroves, participated by our people's organization in Sitio Propose, Agonoy, Bulacan, Sitio Lantad in Binacod, Paumbong, and in Sitio Pulupulo in Pamarawan, Malolos City. So these 3 areas is our continuing partners in mangrove restoration. Okay, so let's have the next slide, please. So in that slide, we can see our president herself did the monitoring. So a summary of our accomplishment in resource rehabilitation shows that we were able to identify 16 sites for mangrove plantation. And these sites was validated by the Bureau of Fisheries Aquatic Resources. A total of 63.6 hectares were planted with mangrove. Number of propagules collected within locally is 19,800. But we need to procure from some other neighboring provinces like Aurora, Zambales. We were able to procure 171,000 seeds. So a total of 190,800 was planted in that 63.6 hectares. We, as participated by organized marginalized group, at that time there are 6 active groups. So a total of 104% accomplishment. And with this overwhelming accomplishment, the school were able to do some sustainable planning, okay? With that sustainable planning, we were able, can we have the next slide, please? The sustainability plan. Okay, so as I've said, the overwhelming accomplishment, we're able to formulate a sustainability plan, keeping our people's organization. We keep the partnership burning, like for the City Fishery Aquatic Resources Management Council, we were able to have 1 active group. Barangay Fishery Aquatic Resources Management Council, 6 active group. Samahan ng Mangingisda ng San Roque, 1. Samahan ng Kabataang Makakalikasan, 2. Samahan ng Mamamaklad ng Bukad, 2. And Bukluran ng Maliliit na Mangingisda ng Paumbong, 1. Maliliit na Mangingisda ng Makakalikasan, 1. So these are our sustainable approach in dealing with our resource restoration. Next slide, please. So with that, next slide, please. Okay, so in our resource restoration, we have the first slide before this one. Can I have a clear discussion of the slide number? Yes. So with this slide shows the interactive community ocean action in mangrove forest tree planting, participated by our faculty itself, the students' participation, and the private participation through their corporate social responsibility. So right now, yes, right now we have these linkages with the Toyota Marilao, Toshba International, Wetlands International, Good Neighbors International, and with the Academ de la Consolacion University Philippines, Bulacan Polytechnic College, Marcelo High School, Dr. Orianga College. And with the national agencies, we have the DA-BAR, Bureau of Agriculture Research, and the DA-NOAP, the National Organic Agricultural Program, DENR, the PENRO and the CENRO, DTI, DSWD. And with the LGUs, we have 13 municipalities, work with 3 cities, 34 barangays, and 1 border town, the Apalo. With the student organization active, involved in tree planting, we have the YESO, the Youth Environmental Society of the College of Science. We have the CYBL of the CBA. We have the Green Advocate groups among colleges, the 17 colleges in the university. An active group is also coming from the College of Engineering, the College of Social Science and Philosophy. Other groups helping us do the restoration is the Gurong Nagbabalik Para sa Bayan. Okay, next slide, please. Can we have the next one? So the advantage of keeping mangrove planting, I think it was given very elaborately by the first speaker, but with our institutionalization of resource restoration, we are committed to really reach out with the marginalized group and help in the food security and livelihood. So we have these provisioning functions of really looking into the fingerling stock, and this demands income for the marginalized. The crabs and other crustaceans yield from the mudflats, the fish stocks that we need to supply in the wet market, and also the supply of propagules, a highly demand product for other institutions, other stakeholders that are into tree planting. Okay, can we have the next, please? Okay, also, we have this opportunity to establish income or other livelihood for our marginalized group, like the establishment of seedling nursery in pots and in sacks. Propagules are stored and maintained to meet demands of seedling for tree planting. There are other photos that can show display of how the marginalized group able to establish seedling nursery on their own traditional way. Okay. Next, please. I think we're running out of time. So adaptation and risk reduction, that's really the essence of tree planting. We need to provide buffer zones. So the sitio Pulo-Pulo in Pamarawan is highly appreciates the efforts of BulSU as well as the wetland support in trying to establish and produce more mangroves in this area. Okay, and establish resiliency among the community. Again, it is a source of biodiversity as we see a lot of migratory birds. Last time, it was February that we were able to see through our bird watching different species coming in flocks, coming in their groups. And then we see marine species propagating in the different aquaculture ponds. Okay, I think I was able to mention the different initiatives. So right now, way forward, we're looking for conservation principles that must be anchored on the premise of sustainable development, because there are other citizens trying to produce or engage in tree planting. But mind you, there must be some studies that we need to look into the land preparation as well as the community participation. So there must also be a strong support from the local government unit, like for example, the three municipalities mentioned earlier, and from other national government line agencies to make a more successful resource restoration. Okay, I think that ends my presentation of the initiative. Very brief, actually. So now let's move to the next, and that is the question and answer portion. Anyone from the group, you may now bring your questions, any gray areas about this, the source of this event, or even any questions from your mind. You may now give it over to it's your turn, Ran. Question?
Sir, Betsy, I think there are questions in the chat box. As per Sir Arne, mangrove restoration is not as effective as those that have grown naturally, not as sturdy to prevent tides and flooding. Any comment as to the restoration efforts of the group?
Yes, restoration is not easy. We have to really look at the hydrology, the water patterns. We also have to look at the species that are naturally found there, and also what the other factors that affect the condition of the environment there. For instance, in that particular site, in Bulacan, there is subsidence, so it's sinking. So when it's sinking, therefore, the mangrove trees are exposed more, or are put underwater. And if they are not suitable for, if the species are not that are planted there are not suitable for that kind of situation, then they die. So it's important to really have a careful analysis of the landscape that we are working in, and understand the factors that affect, especially for coastal wetlands like mangroves, because that's really affected by the exposure to water, exposure to sun, and also uh, the the water, fresh water coming from the rivers. Mangrove forests do not thrive in very high water salinity. So yes, the sometimes it's just uh, okay to leave some areas to recover by itself, and but there are other areas that we can assist to recover. So this is site specific. I hope I responded to your question. Are your comment, and there was another I saw in the chat box. Reese, do you wanna?
Earlier, there's a question regarding the status of the Manila Bay Sustainable Master Plan and how is it going to proceed with regards to the pandemic of COVID-19?
It's going to proceed right now. How it's going to proceed is being talked about by the two governments, by the Dutch and the Philippine government. And there is a consideration that there is this COVID-19. So the master plan may be tweaked to ensure that it's assisting the recovery of the people after the COVID crisis, after the COVID-19 epidemic. So it's under discussion. We will announce as soon as we know more details about the plans of the Dutch and the Philippine government, in particular the National Economic Development Authority.
Are there any other questions from our dear participants?
Hello, I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Hi, I'm Judah Liposa. I'm calling in from Cebu because I've been stuck here because of the lockdown. I work with Wetlands International in Eastern Leyte. My question is, I have one question to Dr. Cabanban and to Dr. Chua. First, Annadel, what has happened to, or if any, what impact has there been on the much-touted Manila Bay cleanup? Just before the lockdown, the DNR specifically has been very active in social media, showing that garbage has been cleaned. Has there been any scientific study to assess if this really has had a favorable impact on Manila Bay? And my question to Dr. Chua is, there have been plans supported by the national government and initiated by a large corporate entity to build an international airport in Bulacan. And I understand many of the areas they're planning to build the airport on used to be or still are mangrove areas or maybe abandoned, undeveloped or underutilized fish pond areas. What's the status of this? Thank you.
Regards to
Yes, ma'am.
waters, whether it's a status on whether it's study on the cleanup rehabilitation, the status of the rehabilitation. I know that group or a task force in DNR is monitoring the status of the waters, and I have not kept abreast of that. But if you pass through the coastal waters, Ross Boulevard, for instance, things have improved, and it's not as smelly and it's not as dirty, and people are there already enjoying the breeze or watching the sunset. I myself enjoyed the sunset there, New Year's Day, I think it was, yeah. So I don't have scientific data on the status of the rehabilitation of Manila Bay. DNR has it, yeah.
May I remind the participants to please don't forget to answer the survey poll.
Hello. I think I need to answer the question.
Okay, ma'am.
So, yes, I'd like to answer about the Aerotropolis project. And that is about the international airport to be built in Bulacan, yes. It will, of course, given the certificate, the issuance of ECC, and other regulatory permits, I think the project in itself will push through. There are already small projects, the infrastructure going to that area is being operationalized now. I think it's being constructed, yes. But if the concern is on the mangrove, especially the Bulacan Mangrove Park, I think the SMC, the San Miguel Corporation, will spare that area and provide support in maintaining that mangrove park, considering the importance of mangrove. But how can we maintain that if there is that noise coming from? How will biodiversity increase if that will be the area for landing and all? You know, birds, migratory birds, scares. The noise created from the airport will scare the migratory birds. So I think that is also the other side of the protester to really block the project. But in itself, it will push through, sir. But for us here in the first district, the Pamarawan site and the Hagonoy, hindi naman po siya tatamaan ng ating international airport. Okay? Did I answer it right, sir? Was I able to give a clear explanation about your question, sir?
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, speakers. It looks like we've covered all of our questions. Moving on to the last part of this webinar, let me summarize the presentations.
I think there's still another
There are
one.
questions. I think there's another one. Another question coming from...
It's not a question, Mom. It's comment.
Okay.
The airport
Hello,
will
yes.
1/3
So
of
I'm
the title flats.
Dan Sarojado po from Bulacan State University. So my question is, do you see the idea of blue economy, or do you support it? And do you support it to be good in our ocean, even through the first green economy plan was said to fail and cause or attract more damage in our land environment? Did you hear that po?
Let's repeat. We hardly heard your question.
Hello. Do you see the idea of blue economy to be good in our ocean, even though the first green economy plan was said to fail and attract more damage to our land environment?
Was it about Lance? Is it about you're talking about the project on Aerotropolis?
No,
Will
ma'am,
it
about the blue economy.
the blue
The idea of
economy?
blue economy.
Okay, the blue
Should we support it
economy.
po?
Okay. I think that's also one of the agenda of our national government. I think NEDA has poured in an appropriate allotment to really take care of the oceans, and it's being handled by the ENR. So in terms of your concern about the ocean to sustain its protection, I think we have the national agencies, but we have to really knock with our local government to work and bring in their strong support, because really the matter of implementation is always the big questions, right?
Yes po. Another question po is, why are there failing mangrove tree planting facilities po? As you
Okay.
stated a while ago po, marami po kayong pinakitang location po. But lahat po ba yun is naging active or lahat po ba yun is na-sustain? What are the factors?
Yes, actually, failing mangrove is really happens, right? The best mangrove is really from a natural grown itself, but we need to restore all because of the void, the absence of buffer zones. That's why we need to plant. There are areas talaga na we failed all because of factors like typhoons, strong typhoons. We were hit from 2012 to 2014. The hardest hit is in Bulacan. Ngayon pa lang tayo talaga hindi tayo masyado ngayon tinamaan ng mga malalakas na bagyo. But mind you, let's look at Pamarawan, the Sitio Pulupulo, and even the Sitio Bitas, both in Pamarawan, city of Malolos. There are huge and very beautiful mangroves grown through the years. Okay. So other factors is that economic. There are people who are not conscious about their actions, like yung ating ibang mga mangingisda coming from other borders, no, gagaling sa ibang probinsya, pag nagpunta sa atin, sampak na lang yung kanilang bangka without minding the beautiful the growing buds of mangroves that are in there. So nasisira talaga sila. Ganon. And other scientific approach that was given to us, the lack of study about the land preparations, the salinity, that adds up to the failing factor of mangrove survival.
Ma'am, last na po. Pwede po.
Sige, anak. Oo naman.
My last question po is, are the laws or the environmental laws in the Philippines are enough? Like for example, the Section 43 of Presidential Decree number 705, which is the revised forestry code of the Philippines, which stated that prohibiting the clear-cutting operation in all mangrove swamps intended for coastal protection. But still, kahit na po may law tayo na ganun is, may nababalitaan po tayong mga mangrove forest po na nakakalbo. So, may I suggest na, total naka-live naman po tayo dito is, meron po ba kayong mga other laws or acts na pwedeng i-suggest kung may makakapanood po nito ng mga politicians or local government po?
Okay. It takes a lot of political will, to maintain all this mangrove. But when development comes in, that's why we need to really compute for the cost-benefit analysis. Like, for example, building that international airport, it went through the process of cost-benefit analysis, okay? There are small patches of mangroves in there. But the bigger one, the Mangrove Bulacan Park, Bulacan Eco Park, isi-save yun. But the other patches were cleared all because giving way to the international airport. Again, it went through the process of cost-benefit analysis. So if the national government sees the higher benefit coming from the international airport, then yun po yung ating masusunod. But our concern now is the displaced, marginalized fish farmer. Saan sila dadalhin? Kung kunyari sila ay mangingisda, ilagay nila natin sila sa patag. Ano ang kanilang gagawin? And it happened with those people coming from Tawi-Tawi. Kaya nga tayo may mga badyaw. They were displaced. These badyaw are fish farer. Sila ay nabuhay sa pangingisda, sa karagatan. Ngayon, dinala sila sa patag. Ito yung mga nakikita nating tao na laging nanlilimos, tumatakbo sa mga jeep para manglimos. Kasi hindi sila bagay para sa isang magsasaka. We failed on that matter, looking at the social aspect ng ating mga naaalis. Again, we will experience the same with the fish farmers in Bulacan. I-relocate sila somewhere, malapit, pabundok. Ano na namang hanap buhay nila doon? We're now creating another problem out of another problem. So, ganun yung nangyayari. So, sana hindi sila, ilagay din sila na may malapit sa ilog para i-maintain din na ang kanilang hanap buhay. And then, all these mangrove na pinutol, all because of this project, ay magtanim din sila for other parts of Bulacan coastal area. Malaki pa naman yung ating coastal area. We have the first district. Yun, doon tayo mag-concentrate. Sana ganun po ang gawin. So I hope Lance is a very good friend, an engineering student. Love ko yung batang yan. Always with me during tree planting, no, Lance? Thank you, Lance, for the question. I hope na naliwanagan kita, anak.
Thank you po.
Thank you, Lance.
Pwedeng magdagdag sa sagot ni Ma'am sa
yes, Ma'am.
Lance. Yeah. Pwede din pag-usapan ang lokasyon ng airport.
Apo.
Kailangan natin yung wetlands, yung coastal wetlands, yung mudfloods na importante for the birds, the migratory birds, water birds, at pagkain natin. Kailangan nating isatabi o protektahan. So, na-mapa namin yan nung kailan lang, last week lang. So, i-share namin yan sa inyo at sa DNR at saka sa stakeholders. Siguro kausapin natin yung may-ari ng proyekto para, there can be a win-win solution to have this blue economy, sinasabi ni Lance, no? Yeah, we are not, Wetlands International is not against development as such. Now, we can still have development, but it has to be within our values for the conservation of ecosystem, so that no group like the fisher folk are disadvantaged, no, wala silang makakain, maapektuhan sila. There is a way that we can have a discussion so that the sectors of society will, not just one group of society, will be able to enjoy the benefits of the ecosystem services, like food, regulation of climate impacts, and so on. So I hope I have added some more insight into your question, Christian.
Okay,
Lance.
Thank you.
Into Lance.
Thank you, Lance.
So meron ding sinasabi dito si Arne, yung expert namin sa sa birds. He is really highlighting the importance of the mud floods of Bulacan, because there are in Taliptip and Bamban and 13,000 of migratory birds flock there. Each time, it's there's a migration, and so yun na lang naiiwan doon. Yeah. So maybe if we can convince the proponent to adjust their plans, their design, and this is what's called the approach is called building with nature approach, where the ecological considerations, the ecological principles, the hydraulic principles, this is about the water, and the societal desires or objectives. Like, for instance, Lance would like to have the blue economy to prosper. So that's a valid point, So we have to sit down together as stakeholders and talk about this and come up with a solution that is favorable to most of us, that has benefits not just now, but in the long term. So that's a long process. Building with nature approach. Parang din, nature-based solution. Siguro sa iba, next time we will have a webinar on that.
Okay, to our dear participants, we will try to answer your questions via email. May I remind you, our dear participants, please do not forget to answer the survey poll. You may answer the survey poll now. To our dear participants, we will give you 5 minutes to answer the survey poll. Thank you. Moving on to the last part of this webinar, let me summarize the presentations. Together, we can protect our home. The protection and rehabilitation of coastal wetlands results to less sediment, clean water, more nursery sites for fish and shellfish, more food for birds, sustainable livelihood for recreation and fishing. We also learned that the BulSU initiatives on resource restoration are small steps leading to the bigger Ocean Manila Bay. That concludes this webinar. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. For your e-certificates, Kindly answer the survey that will be sent to you via email in exchange for your e-certificates. Please comment your name, affiliation, and email address in the chat box. This webinar would not be possible without the help and assistance of the following core group. We would like to thank the Wetlands International team, Dr. Annadel Cabanban, our speaker, Ms. Shin Rose Kabak, our Zoom host and layout artist, and Ms. Rita Istadola, our overall coordinator. We would also like to greet the other teams of Wetlands International, namely Mr. Judah Aliposa and Jane Ibanez from the Eastern Leyte office in Tacloban, Dr. June Mercado and Aljoy Alaba of the Agusan River Basin Management, and Dr. Hailey Kiawit, Cassie, Ms. Elizabeth, and Mr. Mel from the Cagayan de Oro team. Also, the BulSU ESO IEG, headed by Dr. Elizabeth Chua and her hardworking staff, namely Ms. Nina Santiago, Ms. Rose Ann Buenaventura, and Ms. Mia Cadiente. Special mention to Mr. Jedrick Dawang of BulSU MIS for the technical assistance. Furthermore, we would like to acknowledge the presence of the following faculty and students from the College of Business Administration, College of Engineering, College of Education, College of Science, Environmental Science, College Extension Service Unit Heads, Non-Academic Personnel Association, Faculty Union Association, and the following organizations: Environmental Management Bureau, Good Neighbors International Philippines, Climate Change Division of DENR, Enro Bulacan, Balagtas Elementary Teachers, friends from New Zealand and USA. Once again, this is your host, Dr. Mary Ann Carranza. Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Keep safe, everyone.